Hey folks, welcome back. Thanks for being here. We continue on our 2024 lineup series by switching over to KTM, the Austrian bike manufacturer. Most of the other manufacturers have not yet released their full lineup yet, so we'll come back to them later, but it looks like KTM has released their lineup, except for maybe one or two bikes that will probably be released later on. KTM's website does not have any prices yet, so I'm doing my best to find prices in other places but can't guarantee the accuracy. Also, the weights listed on KTM's website are without fuel, so the wet weight I give is an estimate. Let's get started. We're going to start off with the Motocross MX family. We start with the electric MX bikes. These are all youth bikes. Prices are up $100 from 2023 for these. We start with the SXE2. This bike has 10-inch wheels and a seat height of 18.5 inches, adjustable up to 19.6. This appears to be a new addition, or at least it wasn't in my video last year. The bike weighs 60 pounds, takes about an hour to fully charge, and the 1.8 kilowatt motor gives up to 100 minutes of riding time. From what I can see on the web, price I found is $2,200. The SXE3 has a 3.9 kilowatt motor. The seat height is 23.6 inches, adjustable down to 21.8, with 6 inches of ground clearance. The battery lasts up to 2 hours, but can be used up in 30 minutes by the most aggressive riders. It takes 70 minutes to fully charge. Price I found is $5,100. The SXE5 model has a seat height of 26 inches, adjustable down to 24.25, and a 9.9 inch ground clearance. The E5 appears to have the same battery and motor capacity as the E3, but offers more adjustability, giving the ability to grow with young riders as they grow. Price I found is $5,600. We move over to the regular motocross bikes. We start with the two-stroke engines, and still designed for youth. We start with the 50SX. This comes with a 50cc engine and a seat height that can be adjusted from 24.9 to 26.8 inches. With adjustments in suspension, a 9-inch ground clearance, has a single-speed automatic transmission, 0.6 gallon tank, and weighs about 100 pounds. Price I found is $4,850, up $150 from 23. The factory edition of the 50SX weighs a couple more pounds, has a different paint scheme, as well as a few other enhancements designed for racing. Price goes up to $5,600, up $100 from 2023. Moving to the 65SX, we have a 65cc 6-speed engine now, with a seat height adjustable from 28.1 to 29.9 inches, a 10-inch ground clearance, weighs about 125 pounds, and has a 1.2 gallon tank. I'm seeing a price of $5,650, again up $150. Continuing on to the 85SX, we have an 85cc 6-speed engine with a 1.4 gallon tank. We have two different models, one with a 17-inch front and 14-inch rear wheel with a 33.5 seat height and weighs about 155 pounds. No ground clearance listed. I'm guessing it's around 12.5. Price I found is $6,600. The price on these two 85SX models stays the same for 2024 at this point. The upgraded model has a 19-inch front wheel and 16-inch rear wheel. Seat height goes up to 35 inches and weight goes up a couple pounds. Ground clearance is 14.25. Price goes up $300 from the other model to $6,900. The 125SX with a 125cc 6-speed engine has a crazy 37.7-inch seat height and still a 14.2-inch ground clearance, 1.9 gallon tank, and weighs about 210 pounds. Price is $8,100, up $100 from last year. Almost all of the rest of the bikes in the off-road category have a 37.5 to 37.9 inch seat height and about a 14-inch ground clearance. So if I don't list it, that's probably what it is. Next we have the 250SX with a 250cc 5-speed engine weighing about 230 pounds, still with a 1.9 gallon tank. Price looks like $9,150, up $150 from last year. Last of the two-stroke single cylinders is the 300SX. It has a 293cc engine, otherwise it's the same as a 250, might weigh a couple more pounds. Price is $9,400, up $200 from last year. Moving over to the 4-stroke Motocross. We start back at the bottom of the list with the 250 SXF. The specs are basically the same as the 2-stroke 250, only difference is the 4-stroke engine. Still 5-speed, 1.9 gallon tank, same ground clearance, etc. Price is $10,200, up $200 from last year. The 350 SXF is the same, other than the bigger 350cc engine. This weighs about 236 pounds and is priced at $10,900, also up $200. Last of the MX bikes is the 450 SXF. Again, all the same specs, other than the 450cc engine. Weighs a couple more pounds at 238. Price is $11,100, also up $200. Next up is the Enduro family of bikes. Enduro bikes are basically motocross bikes with a headlight and tail light. Most of them are not street legal still because they don't have blinkers or high beams. Back down to the 2-stroke engines, we start with the 150 XCW. It looks like KTM has moved the XC line to their new cross-country family of bikes and are sticking with just the XCW for the Enduro 2-strokes. So other than the 140cc engine, they're not giving any specs on weight, tank size, seat height, etc. Price is $10,100, up $300 from 2023. The 250 XCW has a 250 6-speed engine. Based on last year's specs, probably has a 2.4 gallon tank and the same 37.7 inch seat height, same as the Motocross, but they're not listing any other specs. Price is $11,100, up $300. The 300 XCW has a 293cc engine. Google says it has a 37.5 inch seat height and a 2.4 gallon tank. Price is $11,300, up $200 from last year. The 300 XCW has a hard enduro model option that apparently replaces the 2023 Erzberger Rodeo option. The hard enduro option has a different paint scheme and some upgraded features for $13,050. Moving on to the Enduro 4-stroke engines, again we see KTM move the 250 and 350 XCF models over to cross-country lineup, which we'll cover in a bit, and we have a new model in the Enduro 4-stroke, the XWF. We start with the 350 XWF, which has a 350cc engine. I'm finding specs online of a 37.9 inch seat height, 2.25 gallon tank, and about 260 pounds. Price is $12,150. Next is the 500 XWF, basically the same as the 350 except with a 510cc engine. Price goes up to $12,550. We have one model of the XCFW, same as last year, the 450 XCFW. This has a 13.7 inch ground clearance, 37.9 inch seat height, 2.25 gallon tank, and a 450cc 6-speed engine. Price is $12,000, up $350 from last year. We move to the EXCF models, starting with the 350 EXCF. Nothing much for specs on this, other than the 350cc engine. Google tells me the seat height and tank are the same as the other off-road bikes. Price is $12,500, also up $350 from last year. The 500 EXCF is the same as the 350 except with the 510cc engine. Price is $12,950, up $400 from last year. Last of the Enduros is the 500 EXCF 6 days model, which has a special paint job for an extra $1,000. Goes up to $13,950. We move on to the new cross-country category. Starting with the 2-stroke engine, we have the 125 XC with 125cc 6-speed engine, 2.4 gallon tank, 37.7 inch seat height, 14 inch ground clearance, weighing about 225 pounds. Price is $8,400, up $150 from last year. The 250 XC has the same specs except for the 250cc engine. Weighs a couple more pounds, closer to 240. Price is $11,000, up $200 from last year. The 300 XC has the 293cc engine, all the same specs, even the same weight as the 250. Price is $11,300, also up $200. Moving to the 4-stroke engines, we start with the 250 XCF. Same 37.7 inch seat height and 14 inch ground clearance, 250cc, 2.25 gallon tank, weighs 240 pounds, price is $10,600, up $200 from 2023. Next is the 350 XCF with the 350cc engine. Weight goes up a couple pounds to about 244, but otherwise it's the same as the 250. Price is $11,650, up $250 from 2023. The 350 XCF Factory Edition option has a whole bunch of upgrades on it for racing to the frame and suspension, weighs a couple more pounds at 246, has a slightly bigger 2.4 gallon tank, and costs $12,850. Last is the 450 XCF, back down to the 2.25 gallon tank, 246 pounds, only has a 5-speed engine. Price is $11,900. This might be new, I don't see it in my lineup from last year. We move on to the Supermoto bikes. We have 2 this year. These appear to be off-road or track-only bikes, not street legal like other Supermotos from what I'm seeing. These are both single-cylinder 4-stroke engines. First up is the 450 SMR, a 450cc 5-speed. Google tells me it has 11 inches of ground clearance, 35-inch seat height, and a 1.9 gallon tank for $12,000. The other Supermoto is the 690 SMCR, 692cc 6-speed with a 3.5 gallon tank. Cost is $13,000. That's it for the Motocross, Enduro, and Supermoto bikes. Anyone notice that KTM's website is not very helpful when it comes to giving technical specs on these bikes? They do a lot with features on the frame, brake information, suspension information, but when it comes to seat height, ground clearance, prices, a lot of it's missing, and I have to go to Google on that. Most of these bikes have the same basic frame, tank size, seat height. Unless you start getting into the nitty-gritty with all the other stuff that I just mentioned, a lot of these bikes look exactly alike. Okay, we're going to move on to what KTM calls the travel bikes. Not sure what that means, but most of these are adventure bikes. The bottom of the line is the 390 Adventure with a 393cc single-cylinder engine, a 3.8 gallon tank, ABS, a 5-inch touchscreen, 33.7-inch seat height, 7.9-inch ground clearance, weighs 390 pounds, and costs $7,400. I don't have this in last year's lineup, so not sure how it stacks up for price. The 2023 390 Adventure came out after I did last year's video. Next is the 690 Enduro R. I'm not sure why this is in the travel category instead of in the Enduro category, but anyway, this has a 693cc single-cylinder engine, a 35.8-inch seat height, 3.6 gallon tank, optional ABS. Price looks like it's $13,000. Continuing on to the 790 Adventure, we have a 799cc parallel twin. This bike has riding modes like off-road and rally modes that adjust the ABS accordingly. 33.8-inch seat height and a 5.3 gallon tank. Weighs about 465 pounds. Looks like this costs $11,000 from what I can find. Next up is the 890 Adventure R and R Rally. This has an 889cc engine, seat height of 35.8 inches. Weighs about 475 pounds. Price on the base R model looks like it's around $14,500, and price on the R Rally, which has upgraded suspension and other features, is $21,500 if what I found was correct. Last of the adventures, or travel, is the 1290 Adventure. We have 2 models. Both have a 1301cc 6-speed LC8 V-twin engine with ABS and a 7-inch touchscreen. I'm not finding any specs on the tank size online. The Adventure S has smooth tires and is designed primarily for road use. Ground clearance is 8.7 inches and has an adjustable seat height of 33.4 to 34.2. The Adventure R is designed for off-road, has the knobby tires, has a higher ground clearance of 9.5 inches, and a 34.6-inch seat height. Not finding any reliable prices on these for the US. Moving over to the naked bikes. It looks like at this point they might be discontinuing the 200 Duke and the 890 Duke due to other models coming in that are close to the same engine size. We start with the 250 Duke instead of the 200, a 250cc 6-speed LC4 single-cylinder engine, 3.9 gallon tank, about 365 pounds, 31.5-inch seat height. No idea on price, can't find it anywhere. At least not for the US. Next is the 390 Duke. Looks like the same specs except for the 399cc engine. Both bikes have a 5-inch touchscreen display. Also can't find a price. Continuing on to the 790 Duke with a 799cc LC8C parallel twin 6-speed engine, 32.4-inch seat height, and weighs about 410 pounds, 3.7 gallon tank, and priced at $9,200 for the 790 Duke. Now instead of the 890 Duke, we have a 990 Duke, 947cc parallel twin 6-speed, 32.4-inch seat height, 3.8 gallon tank, and coming in about 420 pounds. Price is expected to be $12,500. The last of the naked bikes is the 1390 Super Duke R Evo. I think this is a new bike. 1350cc LC8 V twin engine, 4.6 gallon tank, 32.8-inch seat height, and weighs about 470 pounds. Price bounces way up to $21,500. We take a sidestep to the 1290 Super Duke GT, which is listed as a sport touring bike, but looks more like a naked bike that you can put saddlebags on. 1301cc LC8 V twin, weighs about 500 pounds with a 6-gallon tank and a 32.9-inch seat height. I think the price is $22,000, not totally sure. The 890 SMT, which is the other sport touring bike, the RC390 and RC8C, so far are still 2023 models. There's been no updates to these yet. So I think that's it for KTM's 2024 lineup. I'm sure there will be some updates later on to the 2023 bikes that are left that haven't been updated yet, but this is the majority of them. So there you have it. That's what's available in the US. Thanks for watching. Stay tuned for more 2024 lineups coming soon. Please subscribe. Take care.